Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another book review video. Thank you guys so much for the positive response on the one I did in January. That was my very first, besides just casual conversation talking about books. I don't do book reviews. I don't even typically write book reviews on Goodreads very often. So this was totally new. So I'm going to be looking over here. I've been writing everything in my Google Keep. And I just have little notes that I write throughout the month whenever I finish a book. And that way I have it all in here. I have my ratings. I had somebody request that I put the Goodreads ratings, or I mentioned the Goodreads ratings on here. So I'm going to do that as well. Yes. Side note, it is freezing in here. So I had to throw my jacket on last minute. So yeah, hopefully it warms up a little bit. I bumped up the heat too. Watch, I'll probably be sweating halfway through this video. So February. I had a good reading month. It has been an excellent reading year so far. I know it's only February, it was only March, but it has just been an excellent reading year. And I'm hoping that it just continues this way because I feel like it is so good for my mental health to get back into reading like this. It has been so good for me. I've been sleeping so much better reading, falling asleep reading versus falling asleep watching a show or a movie or something. I feel like I have better mental clarity. I don't know. Things have been just going good since I started reading again. And I hope that this encourages you. If you're in a reading slump, I hope this encourages you to also read as well. So let's get into this. One thing I wanted to mention super quickly. Two things. I am on Goodreads, so I always have my Goodreads link down below, so check that out. I will link all the books that I talk about down below. I'll just link them to Amazon, and also I'll also link them to their Goodreads page. Hopefully I remember that. If I forget, let me know, but I will link their Goodreads page down there too, so you can check out the ratings and all that. But join Goodreads. If you are a reader, that's a place for you, believe me. Two things I want to mention before we jump into this month's book reviews. One, I had somebody send me information on BookBub. So I wanted to tell you about that because I have never heard of it before, and I'm so excited that I was told about it. This is what the little blurb on BookBub says. It says, get free and bargain bestsellers for Kindle, Nook, and more, as well as updates from your favorite authors. So it's free to sign up. You sign up, you give them your interests, and then they will send you emails. I think you can tell them how many emails you want to send. I have it set up for they send me a daily email with books based on the type of books I like to read, and it tells me there's free, super cheap, and that speaks my language, free and super cheap books. Yes. And sometimes you may be introduced to authors you've never heard of. That's what I love about these programs, but I never heard of this one before, so check it out. I will link it down below. Secondly, Goodreads. So I had somebody ask me to include Goodreads ratings in my reviews, so I'm going to do that, but let me talk about my view on Goodreads ratings. If a book on Goodreads has a rating of 3+, I will put it to the top of my list to read. Here's why. And also look at how many people. So say you have 20,000 people who rated this book and it's 3 point something on Goodreads. I figure that's a good book because you're talking about 20,000 something people. And sometimes I'll skim the reviews, some of the top reviews that are on there. I'll skim through them and I'll actually look at them and see, okay, what is it people have an issue with? And some of the time it's things that I normally wouldn't have an issue with. And so you really have to take it with a grain of salt because everybody expects certain things out of a book. And so, it really is so subjective when it comes to people's opinions on reading. But I do like to look through the reviews because if it's something, well, we'll kind of get into one here because the thing is sometimes Goodreads ratings make me not want to read a book, and then I will eventually read it, and then I'm really sorry that I based my reading selection on the Goodreads ratings. So it's nice as a way to look, and you can scan through and you can kind of see is the same issue being talked about over and over and over again, and then it may make you think, okay, I want to maybe push this aside and read something else. That's kind of how I look at it, but if it's 3+, I figure it's a pretty good book. Okay, I always give these to you in the order that this is my second one. I will always give it to you in the order that I read the book so you can kind of see my progression through the month. I read 5 books this month. One of them, I could have read more, but one of them was so slow. And I honestly, as I tell the review, I may even change my rating because I'm so in between on the rating on this book. We'll get to that though. It's book number 4. The first book I read this month was called Confessions on the 745 by Lisa Unger. Again, I'm going to look over here because I'm new to this. I can't memorize this stuff. My rating for this book was 4 stars. Goodreads rating was 3.94. So obviously we, jive there. So secrets. Everyone in this book has a secret. Selena is commuting home from her job when the train stalls. She talks to a stranger in the next seat who she has an instant connection with. The woman shares her secret and Selena shares hers. Soon after, Selena's life turns upside down. I completely fell in love with these characters, even the bad ones. It was really you even liked the bad ones. That's when you know it's really good character development and the author really did their job. When you either love to hate or you just can't help but even hope that, not too bad things happen to the bad characters. You guys know what I mean. There are many points of views in this book, but they're really super easy to follow, so that's always really nice. I gave this book 4 stars because I really was able to predict pretty much every twist and turn, but I loved the ride. I absolutely loved the ride. I love the direction that the author takes us in. But the ending, it was very satisfying. It didn't leave any loose ends, so I love that. Normally that would be a 5-star book for me, but like I said, because I was able to predict everything, I wasn't super surprised by every twist and turn, but I loved it that she did those twists and turns, and I was glad for that direction. And it's a very, very good book. Really, really good book. So Confessions in the 745 by Lisa Unger. I don't think I've read anything by her. I don't know if this is a debut novel, but I'd never heard of her. So definitely highly recommend this book. Book number 2, I am so excited to talk to you about this book, and I know I'm not going to give it justice. I know I'm not, because I have all the feels for this book. So it's called The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I gave it 5 stars. The Goodreads rating was 4.13, so definitely really good. I think it had a ton of ratings. I think this book was really all the hype all over the place. I know it's only February, but honestly, I can already tell this is going to be one of my top 10 books for the year. I plan on doing at the end of the year a wrap up of my top 10 books for the full year. And I can tell you right now, and I can't imagine 9 other books trumping this one to even knock it off the list. I don't know if it'll be number 1, but it'll definitely be in my top 10. I can already tell. I just loved this story so much. So we have 2 main characters. We have Lucy and Josh. They are both executive assistants, and they both work in the same office. So their bosses are partners, even partners, and each of them is an executive assistant to their bosses, and they work in the same office. And the way it sounds is I'm going to kind of picture it. They're in this one little office room together, and they have to face each other, and they hate each other. Basically, this whole book is just them sabotaging each other because they both come up for this big promotion. So they're both vying for this new position, and it's not only them that can apply for it, but also external applicants as well. So they're both wanting this position, so they're trying to sabotage each other. But within this, of course, you kind of probably can guess what happens, that they hate each other now, but what's going to happen later. That's not really much of a spoiler, because that's how these kind of books go. But you will love it. There's cute moments, there's serious moments, there's sweet moments. You're going to laugh out loud. It is just such a good book. And I read more. I know you're thinking this is a romance book. Yes, it is. It's more of a rom-com, romantic comedy for sure. But I do love to read these kind of books, and it definitely made me want to read more after this book, because this is a great book for a reading slump too. If you're in a reading slump, read a book like this, because this would definitely take you out of it. I can see myself rereading this book in the future. If I get myself in sort of a reading slump or just need a pick-me-up, this would be the book. I flew through this book. It had, it was funny, it was quirky, it's lighthearted. The whole time I'm reading it, I just kept picturing it as a movie. So I Googled afterwards, and they are making a movie out of it. They just started filming it in November, so I imagine there's no release date for it. I imagine things right now, movies are probably taking a lot longer to film, I imagine, at this point. So good. Just check it out. It is just hilarious. You'll love these 2 characters. You just love them both. You can't not love them both. One of them, Josh, is a little bit harder to get to love in the beginning, but believe me, you will be absolutely in love with him by the end of the book, and it's excellent. It's good from beginning to end, and you're gonna fly through it. Let me know if you read this book and what you thought about it. So because of the last book, it made me want to read another kind of funny romantic comedy type book. So I found this one. So the 3rd book of the month I read was called Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and this was by Christina Lauren. I gave it 5 stars. Goodreads was 4.06. So this book, though, this is the one that I was talking about that I almost did not read because of the Goodreads ratings. For some reason, all over Goodreads, everybody's talking about the ending. And I hate when an ending is not good. That makes me not want to read a book whenever somebody says that the ending is terrible. But I thought, okay, that's normally though on like mysteries and thrillers, like it can totally kill a book. You know, if a mystery thriller suspense book doesn't have a good ending, doesn't wrap things up, or it's just terrible ending. And so I almost didn't read, but I thought, okay, this is like a comedy, this is a romance book. Okay, you know, what could be the worst thing? The two people you want to get together don't get together. I figured that could be the worst. And so that's, of course, what I'm anticipating through the entire book because I read those Goodreads. So just be careful when you read the Goodreads ratings. So this is another rom-com book. It's about two people. We have Josh and Hazel, another Josh, who run into each other 10 years after they went to college together. And during college, they had a few like encounters, really embarrassing encounters on Hazel's part. She remembers them well, but he kind of remembers her, but she's just never forgotten like this. And so when she runs into him, she's just completely, taken aback and totally like thrown for a loop, basically. Hazel, she's fun-loving, she's outgoing, she believes in living life to the fullest. Josh is more quiet, reserved. He takes life a little bit more seriously. So they're complete opposites. They know in their heart of hearts that they can't date. They're not made for each other. They're too different. But Hazel's like, you're going to be my best friend. And that's what happens. They become best friends. And then they decide to start dating, but not each other. They're going to start setting each other up on double dates. So double blind dates. So Josh finds a date for Hazel and Hazel finds a date for Josh. And then they go on these blind dates as double dates. And it is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious, these dates. It just cracks me up. This is my first Christina Lauren book, and I believe actually there's two authors that make up Christina Lauren from what I can understand. And I definitely will be reading something of hers. I actually have already picked up another book of hers that I'm going to read after I'm done with the one I'm reading right now. So that's how good her writing was. Her writing style is so clever, so hilarious. I guess their writing style. But it's just hilarious, and just such good writing. Easy to follow, a nice flow. It made sense. But there's just so many laugh out loud moments. The character development is one of the best I've ever read. These characters, you want Hazel to be your best friend at the end of this book. Believe me, you do. But I adored all the characters. I can't say enough good things, honestly, about how their relationship evolved. It was such a natural progression throughout the whole book, and it just made sense. It just made sense. It didn't seem, it didn't seem off. It was so good. The flow of dialogue is great. The plot moves along. And there's wit and there's banter back and forth. But this book, you'll be sighing, you'll be swooning for these characters, and you're gonna be smiling throughout the entire thing. It's really good. 5 very, very easy 5 stars. Book number 4, Jane Doe by Victoria Helene Stone. This is the one that I almost did not finish. This is the one that kept me from moving along in my reading because it was so hard to just keep picking up. That being said, halfway through the book, it started really picking up for me. I started getting more into the characters. I just was having such a hard time relating to the characters and caring about them. One of the characters I completely hate, which you're supposed to. But the main character, Jane, I just had so much trouble like relating to her. I know you can't relate to every single character, but it's nice to have at least one that you can relate to. So here's like the premise of the book. Jane works an entry-level job at an insurance company. No one knows anything about Jane, who she is, why she is working such a low entry-level job. Jane is hiding something and she has her eyes on one man in the company, Stephen. Jane has plans for Stephen, plans that include seducing him, inserting herself into his life, his family, and his career. But why? Revenge. That's exactly why. She wants revenge on him. We don't know why throughout most of the book. It starts to you kind of start putting pieces together throughout the first half of the book. But it's once you find out what is going on and what she's doing is when it gets a little bit better and things actually start progressing. Now that being said, Jane's character was beautifully written. Like she lived up to her character. It's just hard to relate to her character, but she definitely lived up to her character. The writer wrote her exactly how she's supposed to be. So lover, hater, or whatever, it's the character was written very beautifully. But you definitely knew who and what kind of a person she was from beginning. So nothing she did in the book was a surprise. Absolutely nothing was a surprise. It wasn't like one of those things like that was so out of character. Nope, everything she did was definitely in character. Again, I hated Stephen, hated him. You were supposed to. So the author did a fantastic job with that. Then there's one other character in the book that's kind of like a sub-character, you know, just kind of a supporting character. And that is Luke. I love Luke. I wish we would have had more Luke, but he really wasn't a central part of the book in the beginning. He was more kind of came in towards the end. I don't want to say a lot more about this book. I think that you need to go into it not knowing, but I also think you need to go into it knowing that it's going to move along a little bit slow in the beginning before you get to the end. There's some really good ratings on this book, really good ratings. I forgot to tell you, so my rating on this is like a 3.5 stars. Originally I put a 4. Then I put a 3. I think I'm kind of in between. I think I have 4 on my Goodreads. You can't do half stars on there. I wish you could. In my head, it's more of a 3.5 stars. But on Goodreads, it's 4.04. I was really surprised by this. People really loved this book, and I myself couldn't get into it. It was just a little slow in the beginning. But I did love the ending. The ending was amazing for me. It was definitely everything that I would want it to be. So I'm definitely not mad at that. I would have been really mad if it would have ended any other way. Then it would have just been like, okay, yep, this whole book was just a waste. But no, the last half of the book, it sums it up. It does everything it's supposed to do, and it has a fantastic ending. So definitely, you know, check it out. I realized though, after I looked up the author, that I actually have read something else by her. It was called Evelyn After, and I gave it like 4.5 or 4 stars, and I think I had something written down that said 4.5 stars. So that was a really good book, so you may check that one out. This also is listed as Jane Doe number 1, which means there's a sequel obviously coming. I don't know if I would pick up the sequel, to be honest. I just don't know I cared that much about these characters to revisit them again. And the last book I read for the month of February was called You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I don't know if that's how you say that. My rating on this book was 4 stars. The Goodreads rating is 3.74. So first off, I am a huge fan of these authors. I've actually read some of Sarah Pekkanen's books that she's written on her own. I don't recognize Greer Hendricks. I don't think I've ever read any of her. I don't know if she's ever done any standalone books, but as these two authors, they've written 3 books. I've read all 3. You're Not Alone is the last book that they've written. The Wife Between Us and Anonymous Girl were the other 2. Anonymous Girl is an amazing 5-star read. That is definitely by far my favorite of all 3 of the books. I read that one last year, I believe, or maybe the year before. But it's definitely easy for me to decide to read this newest book because I knew as soon as I saw this book, I knew I had to have it because I'd read their other 2 and loved the other 2 books. You Are Not Alone follows a main character named Shay Miller. Shay wants to find love. She wants to find a new job. She just basically she's lonely. She just wants to belong. She's so lonely. I felt so much for this girl because I felt like she is just wanting to have a new group of friends, and I felt her loneliness. I really did. Then she meets the Moore sisters, Cassandra and Jane. The Moore sisters appear to have this glamorous, perfect life. Appear is the operative word. A life that Shay desperately wants to be part of. She would do anything to be part of their life. Don't read any reviews on this book. Honestly, there's so many reviews out there that start to give some spoilers, and I hate that. I mean, a lot of people will say that there's spoilers, but a lot of times they don't. But don't read any reviews. Just go into this book not knowing anything because you will definitely get more satisfaction out of it. That's what I did. I read the reviews after. If I'm like I said, this book I knew by the authors, I was going to read it no matter what, so I didn't even look at reviews. But I read the reviews after, and I was really shocked by some of the reviews on this book. It wasn't as well liked as I liked it. Yes, it definitely wasn't as good as their other 2 books, but I thought this book was very well written. I think that these authors are fantastic about leaving you like little breadcrumbs throughout the books, and you have to put all these pieces together. They are fantastic at that, so definitely go into it without knowing anything. Eat up every single one of those breadcrumbs that they leave you, put your pieces together, connect the dots, and you are going to be so satisfied with this book. I just think that's a gift, another gift that this authors have. You think you have it all figured out. They do this in every book. You feel like, okay, I have this all figured out. I know what's going to happen. And guess what? They turn it all around and they turn it in the other direction. And then you are just like, whoa, where did that come from? That happens really a lot in this book. So definitely check it out. But yes, this book is no different. Everything about it is what you expect from these authors. Like I said, I gave this book 4 stars. Anonymous Girl, though, definitely read that one. It is a 5-star book and is one of my fave out of all of their books. So that wraps up my February book reviews. I'm already about 60% in to my next book, and I have like my next 2 or 3 picked out. So I'm hoping to have at least 5 or 6 books read in the month of March. I do have spring break this month, so I'll have some a little bit extra time to read in the month of March. So let me know again if you guys are enjoying these videos. Let me know what you read in the month of February, or if you're going to pick up any of these books. If you've read any of these authors before, I will have everything linked down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.